in Western New York and points beyond. Welcome to Conversations with Jim Anderson. And yeah, hey, listen, we got another great show, and you can get in on it. All you got to do is call area code 716-837-1112. And, hey, look, the power is in the room. And what I'm saying about that, I'm just gonna tell you, I got Natasha in here with me, and I'm here, and that's look, you talking about some power, whew, man, I'm telling you, those who've been in here know that, and so, but let me tell you, our guest today is County Legislator Howard Johnson from District 1. Now, I ain't gonna say nothing bad because people think I talk bad about the electors. I don't. But I do talk honestly about it, so I believe he's on his way, and we'll see how that goes. So meanwhile, I will invite you to drop in, and you can be my guest online, and we can talk about whatever you would like to talk about. And while you're deciding that, in the meantime, since Latasha and I are here, and I done said enough, I think I want to turn that mic over and just, because, she stays all synced. She's the powerhouse where you can see us and hear us a lot. And I'm just going to tell you. So, good morning, Latasha.
Good morning, Jim. How are you today?
I'm fine. Whoa, look out, y'all.
You
see that?
That's
what I'm telling you. Yeah, you say. That. So see, even she say hot seat. I'm going to tell y'all, my guest last week said, and I'm like, I'm probably the most nicest, kindest person that get on, just got a show on, and I love him. I don't say nothing bad about him. And if I did, I would really apologize, and I would demand that they call me out on it. And when I say something that ain't right, I welcome them to enlighten me. And then because the other side, with the people, they're like, man, you're on there. We want you to ask them questions. We've been telling you when we see you in the street, when we call you, we want. And I said, okay, I'm with that, and it's all good. But let me just also say, hey, Austin.
Good morning.
Glad to have you. And listen, the Honorable Erie County Legislator Howard Johnson has joined us in, and I am pleased to have him. He may not remember, but a few years ago, I gave him an invitation that's open, and Murray said, I got him. Well, Murray kind of got him, but I knew you were gonna get here eventually.
Yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I am so glad. I am because
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes because for you to when you say like, that means you either heard something or heard something about me that make people go out. Some people need to, but no, I honestly.
They say Jim Anderson asks the tough questions.
Yeah, I do that.
And that's cool.
Yeah, and I had to just tell the Erie County Democratic Committee, it's okay to run the candidates by here. I'm not going to ask the DA. I am very loving, very kind, and they all say they're going to come back. So we're going to see, even the sheriff. So really, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
We do I have some tough stuff, and Austin always comes from somewhere that is enlightening, and he like me, he don't diss, he may just ask some simple like, I don't understand it, so talk to me. But anyway, I wanted to say, I know you're on about, I think, 3 committees.
Yes.
Let me see if I remember. One is economic development.
Yes.
One is public safety.
Yes.
Another is minority and women.
MWBE.
Yeah.
Committee. Yes.
And okay, those are fine.
Interesting.
And
I'm an MWBE business.
there you go. Do you know each other
today? Nope.
Okay, and the county, I'm just thinking. No, here's what I'm thinking. Like first, I'll just have you say a little bit about the different committees to us,
Okay.
and I want to give you the mic. You can come in any way you want, and you see how laid back I is, and that's
Yes.
the way it is, and people.
But I listen to your show, so I know you. I know you not.
I've been begging.
You ain't a bad guy.
Okay.
You ain't a
All
bad
right.
guy. I know
Thank you.
that.
All right.
I
I
listen
got
to the
a
show.
seal of approval.
You are very
Approval.
informed, and you just ask the right questions. So when I said that, I was really doing it cheek and tongue
I know, and I really appreciate
cheek and tongue last week. So yeah, I know you. You just gotta ask the tough questions, and the questions that should be asked. So I appreciate that.
And you can handle them, man. I know you can.
Yeah, I got big shoulders, so if they're tough, I guess they're tough, and we just have to deal with it.
Dig it.
But it's all for the benefit of our community. I know when you speak and when you talk, you speak and talk for the benefit of the community. When I listen to your program, it's always from that perspective and aspect.
I really appreciate that and stuff. Those committees you on,
yes.
Any updated work for each? Can you give us updates a little bit on each of them?
So the Economic Development Committee is just that, what we do across the county economically, where they are, whether it's fixing their own buildings, county-owned buildings, or being a part of other buildings, giving funding to those. So it's just what it is, just the economics for that. A lot of it is countywide issues. A lot of the stuff that comes before my committee is countywide issues. But we just approved the fruit pilots in the city of Buffalo, one for a housing development that's going to take place on, I think it's Adams and Paderewski Street over there. We did one. We do all those type of pilots. So the county is partnering with the city to do an infill housing project pilot that they're going to take, where they're going to build about 100 homes in the city, led by the Erie County Land Bank Association.
Ooh.
In conjunction with the city identify some lots in some areas that's going to be able to take on some building in Broadway, Fillmore area, some small parts of Cheektowaga. A lot of it's going to take place in the city. So, a lot of that stuff comes before my committee, those committees.
So you're hearing that? Oh man, that's a lot of work. But as you were talking, I was just thinking, does the city also in that reach out of trying to do the minority engagement? Do they pull minority into their procurement, for instance?
Well, so when they have an RFP process, that's
Right.
part of the process. When you go in, when they do a request for proposal, you look at folks who want to bid, and particularly deference is always given to the MWBE bidders.
Okay.
So, and I can speak that from the county's contract, but there is a joint MWBE committee with the county and the city, and they look for the same preference. They want the MWBE contractors qualified to do it first, because they'll give preference to them.
Indeed.
But they do a proper RFP to the county as a whole.
Right.
So
how about like programming, I know community centers and stuff like that, but I'm thinking in the business wise, if someone is offering a service that would be valuable to, let's say, to the community, are there opportunities to fund such things like that?
So the county, through our social service department, and you talked about community center. So, when you think about what do we do as county legislature, what is the county responsible for? We are the biggest health and human service provider in Erie County.
Right.
We are the standard bearer for all the other surrounding counties around us. A lot of them coming in and, mimic the work that we do in the county.
Right.
So it's health and human service provider versus what the city does, which is, streets, garbage, things of that nature. We provide health and human services. So there is a piece from our social service agencies that they send out contractors for what we call prime time funding. Mm-hmm. So they have a list of community centers that operate, and when they apply for the prime time funding to run their summer, whether it be a summer program or after school program, the county just gives that money to a lot of those agencies in that.
Because I'm thinking about even just in this room from what Latasha mentioned, I mean, the kind of business she does that is empowering for those who are seeking a particular course in the community, having the being able to get support from the county to offer, let's say, several sessions, training sessions or introduction sessions of empower and showing from where, the start limit from what line to where what is expected at the end of that. And if someone like her offered that she was able to do that and pointed out even some areas where it would surely be needed, there's opportunity to appeal to the county.
Yeah, because the county programming is that you do that. We have what we call we have a cultural capital program where we give to the culturals. That's one of the bigger things we give to all the culturals that we see in Erie County, particularly in City of Buffalo. The county gives to them. The county executive does a good job in getting money to our culturals. The African Cultural Center, Colored Musicians Club, all our minority cultures. We do a good job of getting funding to them. We sit and advocate for those things, but there's specified programming, things like that. It depends, because what you would have to do is search the county's websites for the different contracts that you could bid on to get specified work.
One of the reasons I was asking that, because I do know y'all have the power to amend, to create, to around the policies and laws, and I don't want the community to think that it doesn't have the ability where they see a need to push you to do such. So that's one of the things I was filling you out, and people, when you hear that, take your notes and then do your strategy on what you need to do.
Exactly.
I know also one of the things, being a county legislator, when y'all talk to young people, y'all generally talk to a lot that are incarcerated and challenged. But I wonder where you have talented, that are youth who are not in those categories, the interaction there. And I before I let you kind of speak to it, I kind of should ask Austin to intervene if you have anything. But anyway, yeah.
No, I'm learning. In school, we learned about government from a real 3,000 foot view. So honestly, if you would have said, explaining what a county legislator does, I really wouldn't have nothing for you. So I'm learning and listening as well. I don't know if that pertains to your question. If there is some more education that needs to be there, or some more connections, because I've heard of the district attorney. I know things of that nature. But like you said, if you guys are the #1 human resource provider in New York State or in the county, then we should definitely be informed, at least know how, like you said, for the issues that matter to us, what role do you guys play? Because if you're in government, you're important. We should be able to know what you do, be able to understand your function. And so I'm really listening to learn right now, but if I definitely have a question, I'll definitely interview.
And I've been invited by certain schools that actually come out and talk to a group. I did something with South Park and Riverside High School just this couple of weeks ago, where I was invited out on a panel. We talked about, the impacts of gun violence. So we've had those conversations, and these are not kids who are, these are high school kids. These are not kids that's, incarcerated, anything like that. So I went and it was a great conversation, and I appealed to them from their perspective. I didn't want to, talk down to them. I just said, hey, we're just having a face-to-face conversation. And I shared, with them I was a victim of a gunshot back in 2008, but I shared that with them so they could relate to them. And it was a great conversation we had. We had a lot of things that came out. They asked a lot of questions. Most times you go in front of kids, sometimes they sit there and they don't say anything, but these kids were very engaged. So I want to say shout out to South Park High School, shout out to Riverside High School for having some engaged children in that program.
One of the reasons I raised the question, and I'm glad it played out like it did, is because I'm betting there is a huge disconnect. You're only one, and you at the age where you are definitely a participant in voting. And I think there's a large pocket that doesn't have enough interaction with you. It's usually the high school kids down that have not reached voting age that is easier to engage. But what is highly necessary is a different connection to
Yes.
that age gap where it comes. Where you at, you represent a power, being able to vote, and the numbers of you that there are, you represent a power. So someone thinking like want to be around, if they delivering, want to have you like, hey, yeah. And so I'm just saying that connection. And
Yeah, you know what I've noticed and things like that. You know, the civics piece is in our communities, particularly in our community, when we don't know what the different branches and functions in government is. Sometimes can be a barrier. You know, what I try to do is interface with the community, because what I recognize is that regardless that I'm not a city elected official or a state elected official, I'm a county elected official, when our community comes, they don't care what you are. They just want to be able to ask you a question,
Right.
and you need to have an answer for them.
Mhm.
So I always try to, if I don't have the answer, go and research the answer and get it to them. I always want to be that person when they see me that they can say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't ever want to be the one they see me from a distance and say, he's not approachable.
right, and that's the thing that that's what we do. I think we have to always maintain a healthy position of being able to push you in that representation. Because when you move from that community level, you're in an area where you pick up some extra powers and
Yes.
that allow you to do some things that will really help. And being there don't mean you see it all.
Right.
But you're in a market where it's on one of these aisles, it's down there. But people need to be able to say what they need. They can't say, I just need something.
Right.
And you like, and at the same time, lifted from the community being placed there, can't have amnesia about what the issue were on the ground while those who wasn't elected was still walking too. They're not
Exactly.
like, oh, I didn't see the challenge to our community, because the next level up is saying, I want to represent. And a large part of the community, I don't know if you may feel this way, feel like, they don't feel like that's happening. That's why you hear a lot of time, they ain't doing nothing.
Yes.
They don't never differentiate exactly who and make it sound like everybody. But the ones who are don't speak loud enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
often enough.
Right. And that's agreeable. And that's why I always take an approach of just being in the community, try to be everywhere at once, being accessible to people, because what I'm hearing a lot of times is that, folks have situations they want you to first listen before you act and do anything. You have to listen to what the problem is. Hear what they have to say to be able to solve the problem. So I've learned that. I've become a great listener. And the second thing I don't do is at my office, 1367 Fillmore Avenue, I have an open door policy. Just stop by. You don't have to set an appointment, because sometimes that becomes a barrier.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, your district covers all the way down through Allentown.
Yes.
Back, how far over going west? So go over to Grant at all?
The Lower West Side.
The Lower West Side.
The Lower West Side.
So just, I'm going to say almost like at Porter back.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So I cover the Lower West Side. April covers the Upper West Side, going back that other way. And I think that's what Niagara, Elmwood Village, all those other places over there. But yeah, I cover the Lower West Side. So it's interesting that I go as far as Edgar Road. So my district is big. So when you think of the councilmatic districts, it's 5 councilmatic districts.
I'm in your district, by the way.
All right, appreciate you.
So I'm going to be the one that's calling your office on some more stuff.
Right.
But I think that's cool. By the way, this morning in your district there was a big fire.
Yes, at Pink.
At the Pink. So I don't know if they're going to tear down any inside scoop. Okay.
I won't.
Okay. All right, don't speculate. I shouldn't ask that one. It was probably heard it on the news, blocking up traffic.
What I will say is that the person who caused it, they were trying to get copper out of the building. They're trying to take the copper out of the building, and with a blowtorch. And
oh my!
So I'll just leave it right there.
So crazy stuff sometimes.
No, you said to Edgar. So like Edgar to like.
So like off that Delavan, off the East Delavan side. So I'll go all the way up to over there. So because I just the councilmatic districts I do all of Fillmore, 98% of the Ellicott district is mine. 85% of Lovejoy I have, big parts of it, and that's the part that goes over towards Eggert Road, breaches right up to Eggert Road.
Like you get as far as Genesee and Eggert?
Yes.
Which, because soon you hit, you in.
And it stops right there. Right, it stops right there.
Okay.
And then and if I want
Pine Tree Road.
Yes, that's where it stops right there.
Okay.
It stops right there. It stops right there. That's where the cutoff is, because then that's another legislative district.
Yeah.
I have.
So you have 14215 then, so that's yours.
I have a piece of that. Yeah, I have a piece of that.
Okay. And the city part of 14215?
Yeah, I have a piece. Yep, I have a piece of
like BCMC area?
Yes, that's me right
then
there.
we'll be setting up an appointment.
Yes.
Because we're actually opening up. So I have two different things.
Okay.
Not that I'm trying to take over the radio show, but I'm working with a church. So I have a consulting company, but I try to do a pro bono project every year. So this year I'm working with a church to convert a building that they have into a non-profit organization where there's 3 arms, and the 2 that would be concerning to you is one, because it's one of the poorest zip codes in Buffalo. As an engineer, I wanted to expose young people or even adults to the whole idea of the science and math. So we're going to have a STEAM programs. We ran one last summer. We're running one this year at the last week of August. Then the other piece is exposing that community to non-traditional things, such as, I know for me, I grew up in West Seneca, so it wasn't as much of a shock to me, but I have friends who grew up, you graduate from engineering school, and guess where your first job is? In Nebraska.
Wow.
Okay, let's just say that, right?
Right.
So now you're in Nebraska and they're talking about skiing and snowboarding and all these things. So I want to also expose this community to those young people and adults to non-traditional experiences that I will call privileged, but assumed in other places. So last year when we did a bike program, 80%, or I would say 90% of the kids never owned a bike and didn't know how to ride a bike.
See?
And so by the time they ended, they all got a bike. They all knew how to ride a bike. We fed them good food. I'm not against the free food, but I want good food because that's another thing that our kids don't actually have opportunities for. So in that community center, it is just exposing them to something different so they can do something different.
And we definitely need to get together.
Yeah, because we're looking, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that I'm excited. And there's the third arm is the faith piece, but it's going to be its own entity. We're doing our 501c3 right now. But then I also, because I'm really committed to it, I have another branch of my actual office there. But and it's a WMBE, but it really just trying to even show people how do you set your business up so that you can accept and be prepared for those opportunities, because so many of us are not. We open up our businesses and COVID was a leveler to me. If you had a proper business, which I did, you got the funding. If you didn't, you got nothing. And so then you're frustrated because nobody told you what's the proper way to set yourself up. Right. And can you afford those opportunities? My last statement, I'm sorry to take so much time. Last week, I did a program for a company down in Atlanta. And I think even B2B, that's where my bread and butter comes from, working with corporate executives on organizational development. But I always tell people you want to run for these contracts, but can you afford to? Do you have a capacity to? Do you understand the game enough to set yourself up so that you're not in a deficit when you do B2B because you're so happy you got a job with General Motors, or you're so happy you got a job and you didn't realize they don't pay out for 90 days or 60 days and you can't front the expense for the opportunity.
And what we found out, you brought up some good points, but what we found out, particularly with the Bill Stadium, and we was like, hey, we want to fight to get more minority contractors in there. We want to fight for this, we want to fight for that. April had to create that level up program to get these people to scale so they can begin to bid on those contracts. Because a lot of them was like, I want to do it, but they wasn't scaled to capacity properly. Like you said, in the paperwork together.
Or even the opportunities of the offer. So like I do professional development, but if you pricing yourself to do a seminar for $300 a day and the market rate is $10,000, these companies don't even think you know what you're talking about.
Right. And they go with the
And so, but then if you set yourself up for that $10,000, all the stuff you need to do to prepare for that, you might not have the working capital to do that. And that's what I was sharing with my son. He works with me is people want these big contracts, but you have to front a lot of money in order, and you got to get there, right? So you got to travel there, you got to cover your cost up front, and then you got to provide with excellence. And if that's your only deal, it's hard. And then if their payment terms are 45, 60, or 90 days, which some of them have that, can you afford to sustain yourself for 90 days? Because if you, with the tightest contract ever, if I go to GM, I'm sorry to pick on them today, and say, I want my money, you're going to accounts payable or accounts receivable. ain't nobody you could call. So is that a proper opportunity for you?
Yes.
So
Yes.
just trying to help people with those things. They don't want to hear me until it's too late. But I'm like, if you don't position yourself properly with the insurances, all the things you need, you can't even say yes. And we, for some reason, and my last thing, I know I keep saying my last thing, I don't understand why my experience, I'm not talking about nobody else, it's hard to find people who want to truly partner and collaborate with you to set yourself up, because that's what the other people do. They partner and they collaborate all the time so that they have it. If I don't have the money, I'll bring you in as this. And we think is a piece of $1 million is better than zero because you don't have the capital to do it. So that's my soapbox. I'm off of it now.
Much appreciated. And you hit on a lot of the things, and that's what we found out. So April established the Level Up program to help certain businesses scale up, so that once the stadium is complete, and things of that nature, they can have the ability. I believe, and I believe Empty Cup is going to be able, not Empty Cup, but Golden Cup is going to be able to pour coffee at the stadium. So, she helped to set those things up. And what they found out was, they might have been lacking something here. That's why they call it the Level Up program, so they could get them to scale. Hey, and she went to the Bills. What are you looking for? What do they need? And she was able to get 5 or 6 companies to scale up. So now it's a thriving program she got. So she's got other businesses in the pocket now, so that, and it's not even necessarily the Bills, that they're ready to get contracts from other places, much like you said, that they're ready when the time presents itself.
Yeah.
That was the discussion just a moment ago was very rich. I mean, I love you sharing, because that's the reality. What Latasha shared, multiply that time, how many more in the community, but look at the needs that we know that still need to be addressed. And I'm glad, particularly, I'm really glad you're here, Howard. And I'm glad you said what you said about the stadium. I would say, for me, that's the first report, and that's giving any insight as to what's happened. I mean, in the sense that, okay, who got jobs, who got what, if any, and it reveals a lot. One, it revealed, okay, Golden Cup was positioned and was pursuing in the manner and as a launch, and what it says about our community, and I'm saying this, not Howard Johnson, not County Legislator Johnson. I'm saying this. Some of y'all got to tell the truth. That's what was also alluded to. I would also say out of what Latasha said. When you want something that you know you ain't ready for, and rather than fess up, you pretend, and then you make it even worse. And when you do that, people really take a long distance about thinking about you. They're like, they're ready for people who are ready. So I'm just saying, people, and we got to be honest. We got to be real. And look, I'm telling you the truth. It's like something we already know. In our community, there are places, whether they be businesses or centers or churches even, and you'll hear somebody walk through and say, oh, wow. That's really nice. I bet they'll say they do something good there, and somebody else that live around there, and they'll say, they ain't nothing. I'm just saying, we know we got a lot of that out there.
But I also think the other piece that can be discouraging is, and I'm not saying nothing about that Level Up program because I did hear about it, but when I saw some of the businesses, I would say people knew people to be considered for some of those opportunities. And there could have been other things that were positioned too. So for example, I do organizational and leadership training. Sometimes we don't even know how to go to that table to even advocate for us, because I know they're going to do safety training. I know they could have had leadership training. I know they could have done some other types of things, but I don't even know if the people who were in the room were advocating for what are the optimal solutions for people who are there versus what's my vested interest, because I have a spouse, a friend, somebody that I know who gets those opportunities because you're just not in the room. So I'm just saying, we're at break.
Oh, we're going to a break, but we'll be back. Don't go nowhere.
So that's interesting.
We're still live
on the live. So no, I will set up a meeting with you, but I even think about my son, we work together and we do leadership training and communication training. but I'm also a vendor for some of the assessments that I know these companies use, right? And as an MWBE, they literally, like some of my people who don't look like me do, they have to use me as a vendor because as a big business, you can't rep some of these vendors.
Yeah.
And so it's just always interesting to me. Maybe we don't advocate enough, but I think about him, you know, as when he was doing communications, we're out of Buffalo, nobody questioned, huge contract, no problem at all. Here it's like jumping through hoops. I'm trying to say that I'm team here,
right.
but it's just different.
And this is not a knock, but it's been this way for so long.
It has,
and it's become the norm.
Well, you know, not to flake about it, but it's kind of scriptural. I mean, you know, where you at, people overlook and underestimate.
Yeah, but some of these people are prophets in their own lands and they're profiting.
That's what I'm saying. and that's what I'm saying. Discussions like this is really like sharing the information with the community. And when you get empowered on some information, that's for you to use. This is not. I always say this is not about entertainment. This is about entertainment. And it enlightens us. I mean, we got power in the room. We got an elected representative in the room that has some power. And if there are things we know, now we back live, but I was just saying, you know, this kind of interaction we're having in the studio that is so important. And when we have power in the room, like an elected representative who has a bit more access to things that they can do, we have to bring some really fermented ideas, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, really come forward with something that can keep and make them strong and do strong work for us. And that's why I'm saying we gotta be fessing up to each other. You know, ain't no more, no slide, no, that's my bad. If you got a bad business, you better change it because we need to call it out. Oh, and speaking of business, we need to look into why we can go into so many stores in the community and you don't really find pricing. And at the same time,
they don't put stickers on
the item, so you know you can flake out. They should, but who holds them? Who checks that and come out? So let me add to it. You got so many of these stores. You know what they got? They either will tell them verbally or put a little thing. It's 59 cents if you use a card, charging 50, and some say you do whatever they want. Illegal, but who's holding them accountable? You know, going in and looking and saying, okay, citing them, not happening. And so I just wanted to say that.
So and to answer that, and real quick before I answer that, you know, and I love my brother Jomo, and Jomo says the learning of civics, business, and community organizations have to come together for the love and future of Black Buffalo. Integrate skills, needs, and future opportunities. And Jomo, that is so on point. That is to capture the true essence of what our community needs.
Yeah, and you know what? Like we started earlier about the great value of those words, and that's true. But we need the doers of those words now, not just the hear. And the doers, even those who have the idea. Jomo, you are in a power position too. There with the Carpenters Union, and there's some real programmatic stuff that could be going on that you need to create a path for people to have. I mean, I know you're doing some, but I'm gonna put some stuff that happened. Again, it goes into tracking it to just a few and not enough.
Bingo.
You know, they don't come out and spread the word so the whole community can be at the starting line together.
And that's it. Spread the word, getting the word out.
Right.
That's what it does. What I would say is I know I've been to several of the graduations that Carpenters program had. It was a lot of minorities, but like you said, we have to put it in the community to make it an open thing that, you know, we have hundreds thousands as opposed to hundreds.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons I'm gonna do like all the other rap folks, politicians who come on to give you a mic to come and do what is basically on-air town hall. Because many people talking about how we don't hear from our representatives enough, and come to wrestle with us sometime. To come to wrestle, if the community is thinking one thing and they're on the wrong page, we need to take them on. And I tell you, one of them is going to be, and rightfully should, if we're going to be fair to humanity, it's going to be the LGBT, well, it's called the homophobia that existed in such a clear moment when you can't be doing that. I mean, we're going to be help raising the conversation on that. And then we need to do is talk strong to our young people. Look, I know they know some stuff, but I like to say to them, y'all just arrived to the planet. So you need to know some more. I'm going to shut up because your mic.
And you know what? So, and it's funny when you talk like that. So, Councilmember Everhart, after 514, she created, this year what she created was the Buffalo Black Caucus. And in that Buffalo Black Caucus, there was a myriad of classroom opportunities that folks can go in. It was home ownership. It was talking about, it was a myriad of just of different things, hood tales, and you think, oh, hood tales, but it was talking about, she had businesses there that spoke to how they got started, their goals, the path, the setbacks, and how they advanced and moved forward. So it was real prominent. I actually did a segment for her where we talked about why Black folks should run for elected office and be involved in part of the political process.
Are there members to the group already, or it was just
no? It's going to be it was so she did it 2022. She did it this year, and this year's showing was great because they did it over at Canisius College, and they did it like right after 514. And it's something annually that she's going to do is the Buffalo Black Caucus. So where we could begin to fester this conversation, what I want to do is tie you two guys together, so maybe you can have a segment there. Tie you together. What I'm thinking, so you can have a segment there.
Councilwoman Everhart, that you hit. Here's an open mic invite. I would love to have you on the show. And I'm here with your good friend and my good friend, Legislator Howard Johnson. And yes, he not only shared some more good news to some that I already knew. I welcome you to the show. So I'm going to be the one hounding your office.
I do have a question though. So I know Us is really quiet. He's always like, I'm quiet unless I have something to say. So when I look at you, you touched on it, but I want to draw it. We're in the last 20 minutes. So for the young people, and there might be county programs that I'm just not aware of, who are not where a lot of, I think, the funding that we see. So if you're not a kid who dropped out, if you're not a kid who's like incarcerated or things of that nature, I look at him and his friends. They're all graduates of high school. Some are in college. He chose to take a gap year and go a different path working with me as a communication coach. But like, what programs or funding are there? Because it was hard for 2 years trying to get you encouraged, and people would say stuff other than Jim. I will say Jim and somebody else, Cindy, who doesn't necessarily listen to the show, who were not just, I want to help you, but follow through and put their actions where their words were. Did you want to talk to that? Because I don't even know how to frame the question, but I don't know if programs like that exist or if there's funding that exists for things like that.
And there's the short answer, there's not any programs for that. There's not. I think the emphasis that we tend to look at, the community as a whole, electeds, businesses, and things of that nature, is getting folks skilled up for a job. Entry level.
Because when I've challenged those, and I'm like, so then what's next? Because if I am on social services, paying a low amount of rent, and I have kids, and you get me a job, even as a team lead at McDonald's, I'm going back to the stuff that I could have a quality of life because I can't afford to work. Bingo. And so when I've challenged those questions and said, well, I have ways to say, well, this is what I did to navigate that up. Or my son, like I always talk about, he has the privilege to work with me to see other ways to get to places. Because I know we'll just go get in student loan debt. That's not the path to the money. Because if we start talking to people who are doing it, if they have a high school or an associate or a bachelor's, is not as frequent as people think it is. And I'm not anti-education. I have a master's, but
agreed.
It's different ways.
Yeah, and that's what we're finding out. That's why you say you see the bigger emphasis on the skilled trades, where we say, hey, This is an opportunity, skill yourself up, and you have the potential to own your own business at some point, whether it's plumbing, HVAC work, carpentry work, things of that nature. But you brought another segment into this conversation that we could take a look at.
I agree. And I was just sitting here thinking again how rich the conversation with the things you brought up is, because I see the opportunity with the powers that you have, that on the designer end of what it would look like, and then making the approach.
We'll have that at our center. That could be fully funded by.
Okay, but I'm sure
I like
that
the thought process.
you got a meeting coming up, and you point out at the value and then because of the wideness of where he can look at and stuff, there might be something that there's a pathway to bring that in. It could even be considered as a pilot project that could be invested in to see get the temperature of it. Because, and that's another thing, people. Programs are not made to exist forever.
Yes.
When what is put there for is accomplished, close the book. Or take it to, if there's a part 2, then that's a whole nother story. But people don't get locked in. I'm gonna get a program and I'm gonna live on this forever. That's not how it works. And a lot of it is volunteering and giving, and it can be intrusive.
Right.
So,
but even with that, I know this is my hot point. So even if I'm an electrician, right?
Right.
You're saying electrical thing, but what are the other paths? Like maybe I want to bridge the gap and become an engineer. Is anyone talking about that? Who are our mentors for that? Or if I do start a company, how do I start? Like I know a lot of people who are solopreneurs, and I'm like, but if you break your arm or can you take a vacation, are you still making money?
Right.
Because the multi-million, you can't do it all. You become the constraint to your business.
And you know what? That's a community conversation.
It is.
What you just said, that's a community conversation where we as a collective, we will all have to sit down and strategize that out. When I look at, store owners, and I'll use them because you brought them up to Bangladesh, they pool their resources together and they start these little other small entities that support one another.
Right.
And I think in our community, there's an opportunity to mimic those things right there, to do something like that, to talk about what you just said, because you said the path might be an electrician, but I want to be an engineer. So what's the path once I'm on that road to electrical to going to engineer?
Or open an electrical company where you have a staff and that's your start game. You're not trying to say I'm a side hustle and I'm going to be my own electrician. How do I start a team and partner and say, I want to have a crew so that if I do take vacation, I've skilled up some people who could be on the sales team and all these other pieces, which is what other people do. They don't come in thinking, I'm just going to use my hands. I know my last statement. Back to you, though. I do want to say to the young people who are taking other paths because they're in college, but some of them don't even like what they're there for and can't fully articulate or get the support from their parents like me and my husband have chose to do for our kids. So did you want to talk about that perspective?
Yeah, I think it's the collaboration that I could see potentially. I know when I talk to people, especially younger kids in high school, you think about someone selling candy out their locker, they get shut down. You imagine someone cutting hair in the bathroom, they get shut down. I know friends. I tried to sell candy at one point, and so I think there's an entrepreneurial spirit that we have to foster within the young people to say. And I brought it up when we had Burgard here. Are there clubs where, okay, maybe you can't do this at school, but we don't want this passion to die out. I don't want this mindset that you have to die out. And I think there's an interesting dynamic of two groups where you have business owners who have done it, and you have young people who necessarily haven't, but have the desire to, that could definitely be connected to say that whether it's an after school program, the same way we have cooking club, the same way we have all these other clubs, entrepreneurial club or entrepreneurship club is just like financial literacy, where it's something that's important. And I'd argue whether you're going to be a business owner or a part of a business, understanding business structure, how it works is important, just to understand how economy moves, because business is how economy moves in community. And so I just think that for me, if there was a program that I think that our county has a big need for, it would be, we have a lot of young people who really want to have businesses, want to have skills, and want applicable things. And to me, when you think about why we have so many young people out running the streets and running rampant, it's because they don't have outlets to say that, if you're telling me that the only option is either to go get a job at somewhere I don't like or go try to make money out here like all the drug dealers and rappers I see, well, then you can't be surprised when a lot of kids choose the second option. And so we just need to create this third option to say that, okay,
Yes.
if you're saying you want to get money, if you're saying you want to do these things and you don't know if college or other jobs are that opportunity, this is how you do it, because that's how we avoid what you're talking about, where we're now playing catch up too late. Now we're trying to scale and it's too late. Now, because we didn't have these knowledge and things that were in our mind or already trained in us. So when I see things like we had Eclipse come to the city, you ain't see nobody else selling t-shirts, nobody else selling things like that, where
Yes.
we need to foster an entrepreneurship spirit in our community. And I believe that starts with the youth, especially those that are getting turned away when we're still in school, because I just see it time and time again.
I appreciate your comments, Austin. Those are great comments. And here is an opportunity where we can bridge the gap. When I think about what we're teaching in the schools, and it's great. I'm not knocking the schools for anything that teach, but I think we need to have a overhaul of the curriculum, what's being offered to a lot of these kids. Because I know when I was school, course 1, course 2, course 3, math, stuff like that, that's fine and dandy. But since I've been out of high school, and any of the jobs, I've worked in major corporations, I worked in this, I haven't used course 1, course 2, or course 3 math. But what I did need, I needed to be able to learn to balance my checkbooks. So as a young adult, that was a challenge. You know,
and
if I want to
speak clearly,
entrepreneurial spirits, and I think we have an opportunity to marry some things. I think we can speak with some of the school board members. We have some pretty progressive school board members on there where we can have conversations with them and encourage them to say, hey, we need to plant these type of opportunities.
Listen, totally right. And I think, I know you're going to hear more from us
Absolutely
outside of this, but also to those who are listening, block clubs.
Bingo.
These things, you take those who are organized, and you work with them to reach those who are weak. But the organized need to have a light on, and their light has been kind of dim. I've been talking about block clubs. We know that they can have a block party, they can clean the streets, but they can also engage in life-impacting things. On their block, everything we talk about, from a carpenter to someone doing electricity, someone a brainiac in terms of mathematics, business stuff that are on the block. You mean somebody can do a 1-hour Saturday program, offering it to young folk, and not worried that you don't get a whole yard full? Look, if you get 1 to 2, you making it strong. Again, to me, this is look, for me, the experience with Austin is a gift, because we often talk about being close, but watching them generate and feeling them as they radiate how they see. I respect they're the bearers of the new knowledge.
Absolutely.
And the new energy needed to move forward. They're hungry. Some of us are kind of like we still digesting this, how life has been. That's why we talk about, I remember back then, and they're like trying to get a back then that is not horrible like it is now. And that's I anything I could do, it will be because of them. I honestly believe that they're making a world that works for all of us, which says about this world, this is a restricted and just self-destructive, greedy world we live in, and we're trying to survive. So the world I'd rather be in is the one they purposely making the work for all of us, because we need to change some stuff, delete some stuff. And one of the things, again, that's why I'm glad you're here. I know sometimes people, like scared of the show. He go, no, they need to think about Latasha. You see how Latasha? I think I'm mild. I'm like, what's that guy that's Superman? I'm mild-mannered,
Clark Kent.
And Clark Kent. And I don't even have a phone booth to run into the chain. So, I'm going to stay mild at night. But Howard, I really appreciate you. I'm serious about the mic being open. Even when you're not scheduled, if you need to run by, do a 15-minute sound out about something that is really coming down, I think it's an honor on your behalf and an honor to the community of saying, hey, look, I'm representing you, so I want you to know. So nobody be saying, well, I heard.
Right.
Well, if you didn't hear him say it, You better check out who told you, you know?
Right.
But I'm serious.
And I appreciate being here. This was a very, like you said, rich conversation, worthwhile and much needed. And we need to continue to have these bigger segments. We need to hear from the young folks like Austin and then Miss Latasha for her perspective on things. I think, because now we begin to think tank things and we begin to think through things and say, okay, I didn't look at it from that angle. She brings up a great point.
Yep.
And it wasn't divisive. It wasn't saying you were wrong, I was wrong. She said, hey, we need to think about this as well.
Right. And those who envision have the ability to bring it into a structure to help somebody else see. Sometimes people say, well, I think, okay. But then if you have to run what I think, then, you need a little bit more of a blueprint. And that's, because you might, and then because you were thinking you thought wrong. But then what about, I can give you something much more clear that will help you in how you take it forward. It's going to come.
Awesome.
And the last thing I will honestly say, this is not to even go back, but yes, when it comes to the young people and for everything I'm saying, if there is help on that visionary side, I'm saying that I can definitely help on that aspect. Okay. But even when we're talking about block clubs, because it raised an interesting point to me, it said, okay, would it make more sense for us as a community to try to focus on one group or provide the platform for those who have knowledge to be able to speak to their demographic and speak to more groups? But to me, the issue I see in that is that starting a block club isn't always easy. I would always say that advocacy is a dead career because there's no money behind it. And for me to expect that, a person's going to wake up every day and basically have a job with no pay is difficult. And so I think that even if there's a program that I would like to see, if there was a program that could help people start block clubs on their block, whether it is giving them funding so that they can get the things and get the necessary materials, whether it is teaching them how to do a block club, what it should do, what functions it's to have to balance that fun, but also actually enriching the community that they serve. I think there's just a lot of knowledge that's needed because a lot of people, like you said, younger people included, I have no memories of block clubs. Right. I've never been to a block party.
And we actually
I don't really know what that would necessarily be.
We actually have a board of block clubs in Buffalo. Yeah. And I'm just saying the fruitage of them are okay and nice, but I'm challenging them to do more. We're in a do more need moment. For instance, when we talk about children who can't read, who would be best to do a little survey on the block to see and identify who's struggling, and again, do a Saturday morning program for some of them. I'm just saying they can do more than have a block party and sweep the street. They're the first ones that know where there's deficits on the block. They know the house where there's too much party and not enough adult supervision. Yeah. And so, and we know when we have another county entity that has to take action, I'm talking about CPS, they're not necessarily coming in there like cowboys. They may come in there unfamiliar, but if they had an intersection with the block club who could not get in people's business, but help to smoothen it out. And people who have a situation with CPS, no disrespect to you. If you ain't done nothing wrong, I would say don't worry. And don't feel like, don't feel shame. But those where there is something, look, I'm just saying, prepare. I mean, but also know that sometimes facing a situation like that isn't as dreadful as you imagine. It really might be the key to helping you if you have a problem that causes such a unit to have to come to you. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, there are ways to make our block club strong, make the kids on the block feel so cool. They don't have to run no other block to hang out. The action is on their block. The learning is on their block. They're not the block where there's kids that can't read that ain't trying. They're the block where, I might not read as good as I want, but I got somebody helping me out. Right. That's what we need to you can't send electors off, go do something. We need to be connected and create a pipeline so the juice can come through. Yes, and agreed. So, and that's a perfect way to put it. We have to create that pipeline and we have to be connectors. Yep. We have to be connectors to resources. We have to be connectors to program. We have to be connectors to funding source. We have to be those connectors, and it's all out there because other communities are using it. You
Right.
got that right.
Other communities are taking full advantage of what's out there.
They
You got
really
that.
are, whether they like you or not.
That's
They
right.
do.
Yeah, so
And-
we have to
right.
begin to do that in our community. And I
Right.
think that's, what I'm saying. When I first came into office, the big thing is what they're going to say bad about me. Now that I've been in, I'm a little seasoned.
Mhm.
I say, you know what? I'm getting the understanding of what the community sees in electeds and what an elected should be doing.
Mhm.
And you have to take some punches.
Right.
So I had to learn to take some
Right.
punches. And I'm like, you know what? Because they're not saying anything to hurt.
No, they're boosting you. It's
Exactly.
like, they like your other eyes and checking stuff, and that's why they have to prove themselves credible. They can't be sending you, Reverend B.W. Smith and that sermon he got about watching dog,
Yes.
about the dog that be on the porch just barking away. Before you know it, every dog in the community is barking, and when you go to look, ain't nothing happening. And he just barking. He said, we got people like that. They get to talking about something and somebody,
Yes.
and you go to check it out, there ain't nothing there. And he said, watch them dogs. And that's so, yeah, I'm not, y'all know I'm not talking about all of y'all. But, look, the truth is, if we're not 100% perfected, that means at some point we're going to be on the wrong side of the issue.
Absolutely.
And that means we got to be willing to help each other, pull each other coat, call us out when we're wrong. Don't care what position we hold. We got to be honest about that. And ain't no problem if you want to run for election, run. But remember, community, we do the picking. And so you need to know and look at what they hold, what their platforms are and the things that they're going to do.
And
Look,
hold them accountable.
I just want to say, sincerely, I am glad to have you here today, Howard. I County Legislator Johnson. I just want people to know I am really glad to have you here, and I think this conversation with Latasha and with Austin, all of us, I think it's always more than what you don't know what's going to come. Oh, okay, we out of here. So I'm not talking now. You got to come back. All right.
Well, I will definitely be back. I want to be a connector with Miss Latasha. I'm going to connect with you in Austin and some resources that I have and put you in front of some people that I know so we can begin to have these conversations, see what goes. I think,
to
that's
be
the role.
continued. All
is to
right.
be a connector. So let's connect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We want to take a picture with y'all.
Okay.